Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Monday Q&A, so let's get it done. Bam. If the health problems associated with sugar are overstated if someone is active, are active people with high sugar intake still susceptible to secondary effects like tooth decay? Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the negative effects associated with sugar related to things like insulin resistance and all of that are massively offset by being physically active and particularly being athletic. These things are really not the issue that they're made out to be. They exacerbate the health problems associated with being sedentary. But when it comes to things like tooth decay, oh yeah, eating a lot of sugar, even in the form of quality sugar, even eating a lot of modern fruit, because we have selectively bred fruit to be much higher in sugar than it occurs in nature. So it can exacerbate your tooth decay, and so if you do eat a sugary diet, you need to take extra care to take care of your teeth. You need to make sure that you brush after every meal. You need to make sure you floss those teeth every day. Get regular checkups. Take care of your teeth. It becomes particularly more critical on a high sugar diet, and training will not affect that because your mouth and your saliva and the bacteria in your mouth probably isn't going to be affected by you being athletic. And if anything, you being athletic, you're probably going to eat more food. So it's not going to help you in any way there. All right, next question. I wanted to ask about fecal fat. What do you think of the small studies which show that a consumption of dietary calcium, flax seeds, and psyllium husk increases fecal fat? For those who don't understand, that means the amount of undigested or unabsorbed fat that you're pooping out. I've also heard nuts are not as fattening as their nutritional content would suggest because so much of its fat remains undigested and winds up in the feces. Would taking a serving of ground flaxseed or whole psyllium husk directly/during a high-fat meal reduce the amount of fat digested during that meal? All right, this is one of those things that, yes, that's while technically true, it is very minor in the grand scheme of things. Yes, a high-fiber diet in general, and the reason this seems to be the case with nuts is that because nuts have a very high fiber content. You combine that fat with high fiber, it tends to push through the GI tract faster, more of it goes out with the calories unabsorbed and out your backside and down the toilet. Now, is it enough of a difference to really make a tremendous difference in the grand scheme of things? No, but it can make a small difference. We're talking about people who eat really high fiber diets who still eat a fair amount of fat, particularly because they're eating things like nuts or they're taking a lot of psyllium husk, or they just eat a lot of oats or high fiber foods. Yes, they're going to gain weight a little bit slower and they're going to lose fat a little bit faster, but we're not talking pounds and pounds here. This is the kind of thing that can just give you, from having a relatively healthy lifestyle like that and good food choices, can give you a very, very small advantage in the range of a few %. But that may add up in the grand scheme of things for you over time. But it's not going to be a game changer. You're not going to go from being 25% body fat to just losing 20 pounds of fat all of a sudden because you happen to do this. It doesn't work that way. It's a very small difference, but the difference is probably there. It does seem to be measurable, but you need to keep in mind it's relatively small. It's not a game changer. It's still all about those calories in and calories out. All right, next question. Young children and weights. Hi Jason, my 6-year-old for a couple of years now likes to mimic his parents and try to lift weights. I don't encourage it, but I will supervise now while he bangs out deadlift sets with kettlebells. I let him do farmer's walks with a dumbbell and let him mimic Atlas stone lifts with a med balls. It's more about including him in a family activity while keeping him safe. Is this damaging his natural development? Should he stop? Thank you. Now, I don't recommend that children under about 13 or 14 go on structured resistance training programs, mainly because they can be somewhat risky and there's very minimal benefit to them. It's simply not worth it. But it sounds like what you're doing here, as long as it's supervised and the chance of injury is low, I don't see a problem here. It's not going to stunt their development. It's not going to hurt them because they're not doing heavy lifts. As long as the child isn't lifting anything more than about 50% of what would probably be their 1 rep max, it's generally safe as long as you're supervised on everything that they do. And I think it is a good way because children want to do that. They see mom and dad doing something. They want to be involved. They want to be involved in it. They want to imitate them. I think all of us when we were children, we saw dad doing stuff and we wanted to do the same. Dad was out mowing the lawn, we wanted to get our little toy lawnmower out and pretend to mow the lawn also. And I think it can be a good thing to start some positive habits in their life. And again, the main thing is that make sure that it's supervised and make sure that they're not training too hard. That's the main thing you need to look for so that you can prevent any injuries. And as long as you're doing that, I think it can be a fantastic thing as long as it is their choice to do it and you're not trying to push it on them and they're just wanting to do it for their own participation. All right, next question. Jason, I watched your review of the film Under Construction. That's with my bro Dave Crossland. I've had some conversations with him since I put that video out. Do you really get British women throwing themselves at propositioning muscle bears? If so, can I come crash at your place until I find my own over there? My mom is from England, so I can get a passport. Many thanks, Nobleman, fare thee well. All right, this is kind of funny. I've always said in videos, just been my experience with me being a Texan, that the women are a little more forward here. They do chase after the men a little more than I'm used to. Have I had some experiences with this? Yes, I have. And again, I've got to remind people, all of you who've met me in person realize that I actually look like I lift in person. I look like I have less fat and a lot more muscle than I do on video. I've had at least a dozen people say that randomly who've met me. Just the nature of it. So I do get a bit of that. I laugh it off because I'm happily married. I've never cheated on my wife. I can't see myself ever cheating on my wife. So I just kind of laugh it off and thank them for the compliment, tell them have a nice day, and go about my business. But it does happen. I wouldn't say it's something that happens all the time. I mean, these are one-off things. Something that happens once every couple months to me out in public somewhere. So I can see why Dave runs into that issue, and the women here do seem to like that. They do seem to like guys who aren't really necessarily that ripped, who are carrying a good bit of muscle, the muscle bear look. A lot of them do seem to like it, just from my experience and observations of myself and other guys I know and the way the women behave. But, you know, every woman is an individual. You can't assume that because 10 women somewhere really like something and it makes them pursue a man that there aren't 100 other women who think it's disgusting. At the end of the day, women are still individuals. It's something people forget. But in my experience, British women are a bit more forward than Texas women are in that regard. All right, next question. What are the differentiating parameters between the assimilation, oh, that was lovely, I liked reading that out, of brown and white fat cells? I was once told that the body burns brown fat cells in order to maintain nominal body temperature. Can you confirm this, Jason? Yeah, there does seem to be some data on that brown fat cells do elevate body temperature quite a bit in response to cold, and that might help burn through body fat easier. The thing is, though, in humans, we don't have as much brown fat in relation to white fat as most other mammals do. So it's not as critical in us as it is in, say, a cow or a bear or a wolf. And everything to try to increase, in theory, if we could increase the amount of brown fat cells that we have, we wouldn't gain fat as easy and we would be able to burn fat a lot easier in colder, particularly the winter months. But it's all pseudoscience-y at this point. We don't really have any conclusive data. There's a lot of theories and ideas about how to increase brown fat cells. We don't really have anything conclusive, though, so it's really kind of a moot point until we develop some sort of proven effective method to increase brown fat cells. It's nice hypothetical stuff that we can really only speculate about. But yeah, in theory, because of this effect, if we could increase brown fat cells dramatically, consistently, it would be a lot easier to lose body fat. And it would even reduce the amount of body fat that you're gaining during those winter months if you're bulking. So it would be very beneficial for body composition purposes. All right, next question. How should someone who's been sick for multiple weeks transition back into training cycles if they miss an entire microcycle? Aries, what are you doing, buddy? Well, come here. Come on. If you want to be in the video, then sit in my lap. I can be Dr. Evil here with my bald head and my cat. You guys see how much he's grown? He's easily twice the size he was when we got him. But if you happen to miss a microcycle, which isn't uncommon, I had to take a whole week off when I had the flu the last week. What I recommend is you may need to reset a cycle and go back. Now, it can become really difficult. Like, let's say you're on my intermediate program with those 3-week microcycles. I would consider just repeating the previous microcycle so that you ease back into it that way. But different coaches are going to have you do it a different way. So if you're running any coach's periodized method, what I might consider is contacting that coach and find out from them how they want you to do it if you happen to have to take several weeks off due to an injury or anything else. But for me personally, assuming that you haven't had to recover from any major injury and you've just been sick, I would probably go back and have you just repeat the previous microcycle and then jump back into the periodization from there. But different coaches are going to have different views on that with their own program. You should probably stick with the advice of the coach who wrote your program for you. And if they're not available, then do it the way I recommended it, I suppose. Wouldn't be a bad way. All right, next question. Need a break from macros. What can happen? Put happened with a D. I've told you guys over and over, macros themselves are largely overrated as long as your diet is reasonably balanced. They're kind of just that fine edge. They don't make or break you. They're not going to dramatically affect your body composition to the degree that people think they do. It's calories in, calories out. So if you're tired of tracking macros for a few months, it's just driving you crazy, you don't like it, you feel it messes with your life, go back and just track calories. As long as you're eating a balanced diet to where you're not excessively deficient in protein or fat, or you're just not eating any carbs. So unless your diet itself is extreme, you're probably not going to see any real negatives as long as you just continue to track your calories. And tracking calories should be very, very easy for virtually anyone. It's very easy, and you shouldn't see much difference. Macro tracking, in my opinion, for body composition is really only useful for people who are trying to glean that 5 to 10% edge, who are seriously competitive in something in terms of body composition. 90% of it to 95% of it's purely your calories. So the rest is just fine-tuning things. So if you need a break from it, it's probably not going to affect you very significantly overall. So just track your calories. It should be fine. All right, last question of the week. When will you set up a tactical gun channel, FPSJason, and narrate it with a thick southern drawl? Well, I don't plan on using my southern accent for that. I'm trying to do that purely for comedy effect. But yeah, people who watch the Ask Jason channel know that that will be one of my long-term endeavors. I don't plan on staying in the UK forever. I will hop over to the US eventually, and by then this channel should be large enough that getting outreach and getting online gun companies to do affiliate programs for me and sponsor me, and so that I can get possibly free guns or discounts on guns and things like ballistic gelatin to do ballistic testing, will probably be quite doable by then, because you figure if I tend to build this channel up for another couple of years, continue to work on my outreach, it should be quite large by then, and I'll be able to jump into that. But that is, for those who watch the Ask Jason channel, know that is my long-term plans. I kind of like FPSJason. That's not a bad name to go with. It's stealing a little bit, but that wouldn't be bad. I might consider that. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting, and people will see a whole other side to me. They don't realize that I actually know more about tactical shooting and ballistics and precision shooting than I do fitness. Believe it or not, I actually know more about that topic and have more experience with it than I do with powerlifting and weightlifting. So that would be a really enjoyable channel for people who are into that. It will allow me to promote an industry that I enjoy a lot more than the fitness industry, the gun industry, a lot more on the internet, and possibly influence people internationally, and we can get the entire first world armed again. Bring the Second Amendment to the whole world. Every household needs an AR-15, in my opinion. Even better, Aries, every household needs an AR-15 chambered in 300 blackout with a full suppressor on it, so that you can kill intruders in body armor in silence without waking up the neighbors. That's freedom right there. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, Mount Biceps. Aries, while you're here, didn't you give him a bicep shot too? Let's see if you can do it without calling me. I just tipped his claws, but they're sharp again. Oh, look at those gains. The bulk's going well. All right, and I'll talk to you guys next time.